What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the RGVSports.com football podcast. My name is Brian Ramos.
I'm Ivan Palacios.
What's up? I'm Edward.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Here we are, man. Another episode of the RGVSports.com podcast as we're getting ready for week 8 of the Texas high school football regular season. And fellas, I mean, shoot, man, we're entering the final stretch. We're about a few 4 weeks away from the end of the regular season, and then I mean 4 weeks away from the start of playoffs. So I mean, going to be some interesting playoff races as we get into the final stretch here of district play for a lot of these teams. So let's go around the horn real quick. Ivan, just your thoughts as we get ready for week 8 of the regular season.
I feel like we say this every year, but the season's just flown by, man. I mean, like you mentioned, just 4 weeks left until playoff times. Games are starting to get a little tighter. I mean, even in 6A, we saw a lot of close ones there. Edinburgh, North Economides, Harlingen, Vets, to name a few. And it's starting to really, come down to the wire. That there's no room for error anymore in these games. We've talked about it before, but now's your chance to put up or shut up, man. Because your season can end in 4 weeks, or you can keep it going until to the playoffs and hopefully make a deep playoff run. So it's been an interesting season thus far. I think some shockers, teams we didn't expect to be as good, and teams that we expected to be as good near the bottom of their standing. So it's just going to be interesting to see how these last 4 weeks play out.
And Edward, man, to you, man. So I know this past week we had a bunch of big games, district games between teams that potential district title contenders, but they still got weeks to go. I know we had a few there at the 5A D2 level, and then there, of course, they're in that 3A D1 gauntlet. Man, your thoughts on how some of those matchups kind of shook out here in week 7, and looking ahead towards these final few weeks of district play.
Yeah, I mean everything that Ivan said really again, like he always steals what I want to say. So, but nah, I just expect close games. Like I think anybody in the Valley can kind of get beat too. We saw teams that were like highly ranked for like throughout the year, like Brownsville Veterans, just the Harlingen. And I think that in some of those 6A, 5A districts, especially, like you could see those big upsets. And in 3A, it's going to be a dogfight, every week in some of these games. Not just here in the Valley, but like across South Texas. When they go face those teams slightly up north, they should be really good games, really good football.
Yeah, absolutely. And like we said, we're what, week 8, 8, 9, 10, 11, 4 more weeks left, man. And shoot, it's things are heating up here in the Rio Grande Valley as we get ready. And to kick off the RGVSports.com podcast, as always, we'll run down quickly through the latest RGVSports.com 5A, 6A top 10 football rankings and the sub 5A top 5 football rankings. And fellas, I mean, when you had, it's not often you get a top 5 team that falls. And so due to that happening this past week in week 7 after an electric game, there's definitely some movement here in the latest top 10. So coming in at number 1 at PSJ North, they hold strong. Los Fresnos coming in at number 2. Both of those guys undefeated and hold on to those top 2 spots. And then last week's number 3 team, Brownsville Veterans, takes a tumble after falling against Harlingen High. Ivan, they go from number 3 down to number 7, does Brownsville Veterans, which of course allows Mercedes and Edinburgh Vela and Mission Veterans actually to move up there to number 3, 4, and 5. And then McAllen Memorial coming off that big win over Mac High, which we'll get into. But Ivan, Brownsville Veterans takes a tumble. Just your thoughts on Brownsville Veterans there in the top 10 and how they kind of dropped down after suffering a close loss in a really tight game.
I mean, well, we said it. Once district starts up, anything can happen, man. I mean, and it did in that game. We'll dive into that game a little more, but the Chargers are still a really good football team. They got 2 of the top ball carriers in the Valley, and Cesar Belmontes and Calvin Trevelyan, both over 1,000 yards already with 4 games left, both in double digits and touchdowns too. So they're still a dangerous team, and I think they're now kind of on that fence of a district title that they need to win out and hope some things roll their way. But they're, like I said, they're still a good team. They got some playmakers on defense. They did shoot themselves in the foot a little against Harlingen, but they do tumble a couple spots there or 4 spots there. But that's not to take away from what they've done this year. They're 6-1 overall, and they're still a very dangerous team come playoff time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Brownsville vets, you know they're going to bounce back, man. They're as good as it gets running the football here in the Rio Grande Valley, and that leads us into our number 8 team, the Edinburgh Economies Jaguars. They're still unbeaten, looking to go 7-0 this week, and a lot of questions about why is that Economies ranked number 8 in your guys' rankings? And I mean, if you look at, it's not to take anything away from the Jaguars, that you play who you play, but I mean they've played a quite a few teams that one, some with no wins, one win, two wins. So yeah, they haven't played a team with a winning record, but hey man, they'll have a chance to do that this week. So like you said, man, they'll have a chance to prove it that they belong, and they've been in our top 10 for a while. So it's no disrespect. We give credit where credit's due, and we just want to see them how they look against the big dogs there, against Westaco High, and of course Edinburgh High, who's having another really good year this year. So Edinburgh High comes in at number 9, right behind Edinburgh Economides. Edinburgh High wins a close one last week against PSJ High. 17-14. So the Bobcats dropped 2 spots after, I mean, a bit of a closer game than I think a lot of people expected between the Bobcats and the Bears when you look at what they've done this season. And then the newest team, the only not ranked team to jump into the this week's top 10, that is the McAllen Row Warriors, coming in at 4-2 overall, 3-0 in district play. And then fellas, I mean, we've had there when we move into the sub 5A top 5 teams. I mean, Edward, those top dogs at the top. I mean, it's been Raymondville, it's been Rio Hondo, and they stay the same. And of course, they'll meet on the gridiron in a couple of
Mhm.
weeks here to do battle. But just your thoughts on that top 2 teams there in the sub 5A top 5.
Yeah, still undefeated, both of them just cruising. Remington got into a little dogfight with Lyford, which was turned out to be a really good game that we'll talk about later. But yeah, like you said, they're on the collision course next week. And then Santa Rosa 3, right? So Santa Rosa, they've been having a really good year, flying under the radar a little bit. That 3AD2 district, they beat Hebronville pretty comfortably, and they have they play at home this week against Taft. That should be a good game. But Taft looks beatable on paper, so I think we could see Santa Rosa still here in the sub 5A in the top 5, right?
Yeah.
Raymondville and Rio Hondo's been the only like consistent ones. We've had teams pop in and out, 3 through 5, every week basically, right? So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and then like you said, Santa Rosa coming in at number 3 goes from not ranked there to number 3. La Villa comes in at number 4, and Lyford drops down a couple spots after their loss against Raymondville. They drop down to number 5. As you said, Edward, man, a lot of movement there between those sub 5A teams. And that leads us into our week 7 RGVSports.com offensive and defensive players of the week. And we had one at the 5A D1 level, another at the 6A level. So, and we'll kick it off with our offensive player of the week here in week 7. And that honor goes to McAllen Memorial Junior running back Braxton Spates. Of course, you know the Spates name if you're a football fan down here. And first it was Trevor, then it was Campbell, and now it's Braxton Spates. It's Braxton's time, man, and he's doing his thing. He leads the Memorial Mustangs to a 35-21 win over the McAllen High Bulldogs. He finishes with 297 rushing yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 in the last couple minutes to really put that game away and send the Mustangs on to victory. So shout out to McAllen Memorial running back Braxton Spates earning the RGVSports.com Offensive Player of the Week honor. And Ivan, I'll throw it to you, man, for our defensive player.
Yeah, and our defensive player of the week here comes from Edinburgh High, a team that we've been high on all year since the season started. We talked about them early on. They were in our top 10 to start, and that's their defense has been playing lights out. And Diego Gonzalez, our defensive tackle and our defensive player of the week, huge impact player there on that defense. I mean, the guy had 9 total tackles, 3 tackles for loss, 3 sacks, and a forced fumble. That's a play in the interior, man. You don't see those numbers often from a DT, and he's been a big reason for this Bobcats defensive success. I mean, the team's allowing just 12 points per game through 7 games this year, 6 games this year. I mean, ranked second on the team in tackles with 39, 11 tackles for loss, and he has 6 sacks on the year. So he's ranking in the top 10 in the Valley, and that just a disruptive force there on the interior, both against the run and the pass. And Like I said, he's a big reason for the success of this defense, and he came up big again once again against in that district opener against PSJ High.
Yeah, that Bobcats defense is the real deal, and it kind of all starts up there on the defensive line. So shout out to Braxton Spates, McCall Memorial running back, and Diego Gonzalez, Edinburgh High defensive lineman, for earning those honors here in Week 7. The RGVSports.com offensive and defensive players of the week. Now to recap the Week 7, as always, we kick off the Week 7 recap with the RGVSports.com game of the week. And as I talked about just a second ago, that was the McAllen Memorial Mustangs against the McAllen High Bulldogs, the Battle of the M, as they call it now, between the McAllen Memorial Mustangs and the Mac High Bulldogs, the Mac High's oldest rivalry between those inner city schools. And man, this one, it was set up to be a fun one, man. I thought it was going to be an interesting matchup. And then McAllen Memorial, man, they just played lights out defensively and really did the thing and really able to limit what Mac High wanted to do. And they really struggled to push the ball downfield because Memorial's pass rush and that front seven, they were really getting after it and doing their thing early. And then I got to give credit to the McAllen Memorial offensive line, man. Memorial won this game in the trenches. It was just a solid game from the offensive front, the defensive front for the Mustangs, and that, of course, allowed Memorial's backs to run wild. Braxton Spade's big game, 297 yards, 3 touchdowns. George Munoz runs for a 1-yard score, as does quarterback Kane Coy. For the Mustangs, 5 touchdowns. And then it was 21-0, man, but it set up for a fun finish because Mac High definitely made things interesting. They make it a 1-score game after in the fourth quarter after McCoy Wolthoff touchdown run. They McCall Memorial, Mac High forces a turnover, and they're able to come down and score again. McCoy Wolthoff throws a 21-yard touchdown pass to tight end Eden Maldonado to make it a 21-14 game. And then once it was 21-14, that's when Braxton Space took over. He gets in for a big-time touchdown to lead to push that lead back up 2 scores. And then Finn Henderson responds with a 95-yard kickoff return to make it a 28-21 game with under 2 minutes to play. But then Space does his things again and put it away with that 35-yard touchdown run for the hat trick there against the Bulldogs to lead the Mustangs to a win in the RGVSports.com game of the week. Memorial improves to 4-2 overall, 3-0 in district play. Mac High drops to 1-2 in district play, but those 2 losses against the McAllen Memorial Mustangs and Edinburgh Vela Sabercats. So, yeah, big time game of the week, man. Rivals doing battle, but McAllen Memorial, man, they just really impressive defensively. Got to give love to Dalton Keller and linebacker and defensive back Nehemiah Adebawale. He had 6 tackles, an interception, and a forced fumble. And Dalton Keller 10 tackles, tackle for a loss there to lead the Mustangs to that win. But yeah. Memorial, man, they look good in the trenches. That's what got it done, and that was the recipe for success to that game of the week win, man. So congratulations to the Mustangs on that big win there in the Week 7 game of the week. And fellas, I know that might have been game of the week, but we had a thrilling game go down Thursday night. That might have been one of the games of the year, actually. Ivan, why don't you run us through what went down between a heavyweight matchup there at the 6A level?
Yeah, no, on paper we said it. It didn't look like that good of a matchup. Harlingen came into this one 1-5. Brownsville Vets was 6-0 coming into this one, and but we also said it here on the podcast. It's going to be a lot closer than people think because this Harlingen team, they had played really close the past couple weeks. Their last 3 games had been decided by 1 possession, and boy, we had a thriller on our hands to start 32-6A. Harlingen and Brownsville Vets traded blows early. It was only a 14-14 game at the half, and it was turnovers that kept Harlingen in the game earlier. Two turnovers by the Chargers lead to easy touchdowns for the Cardinals there, and second half it was just a shootout, man. These guys were trading blows. Hassan Woolery breakout game that I think we've all been waiting for. He throws for 134 yards and 2 touchdowns. Rushes for 122 and 3 touchdowns. This is all during regulation, so he's the one that kind of really put the team on his back there, along with running back Noah Huerta, who his 4th straight game over 100 yards. And this offense has just looked different with Huerta healthy. I mean, they're moving the ball more effectively. I mean, you got to account for Huerta now, and Harlingen took that late lead on a touchdown pass from Woolery to Eric Castillo, 10-yard touchdown pass, and take that 3-point lead. 37-34, and the Chargers, or not 37, I'm sorry, it was 34-31, and the Chargers come right back, man, and they do what they do, and they turn to their senior running back Calvin Trevillian, man. He big time runs there at the end to set up the game tying field goal and send us into overtime. And in overtime, the Harlingen turns to their senior running back Noah Huerta, like we talked about. They just pound the rock with him, and he scores the go ahead touchdown in the first overtime to give Harlingen that 40-39 lead. But these Chargers weren't going to go down without a fight. Calvin Trevillian does it once again, rumbles in from 4 yards to make it a 1 point game, 40-39. And after a penalty put them at the 1 yard line, and JC sent that offense out, and the Cardinals were able to hold Cesar Belmontes falls just inches short of that goal line. I think he did slip a little there, and the defense kind of jumped on him and made sure he was down, and it's just inches away from winning that district opener. But Harlingen High with that stunner there, to start district play, 40-39 in overtime against the Chargers, and I think a much needed win for these Cardinals. Like I said, they struggled early on. They could have easily been 4-2 coming into this one, but they dropped that one to Mission Vets where they were up 2 touchdowns. They weren't able to finish that comeback against Acuero a week later, and obviously they had that win against Laredo United South, but it could have been a completely different record. I think the record doesn't do them justice, especially now with Huerta healthy. The defense is playing, they're playing physical. They're still allowing some points, but they're playing physical. They're getting to the ball. They're making defenses pay, especially against a physical team like Brownsville Reds. You got to match that physicality, and just a huge win as the Cardinals look to extend that playoff streak that they have. I mean, they improved to 2-5 overall, 1-0 in district, and the Chargers, they fall to 6-1 and 0-1 in district. So huge win by Harlingen High. Shout out to that team, and the Chargers, like I mentioned, they can bounce back in a big way. They're not a team to count out at all. Yeah, they lost, but they have the weapons and the coaching staff there to kind of turn things around in the last stretch of district.
Yeah, big time result there to kick off 32 6A action, man. What a game there going down between Chargers and Cardinals. And then Edward, man, I know anytime we got Lyford and Raymondville locking horns, man, it's going to be a fun one. It's going to be a competitive ball game, and I think this year's Cotton Bowl lived up to it. Why don't you give us a rundown of what went down this year between the Lyford Bulldogs and the Raymondville Bearcats?
Yeah, Friday night. That was my first ever Cotton Bowl, and yeah, it was a crazy game. Just crazy, Raymondville turned the ball over 7 times and still won. I mean, that's you don't really see that happen that much, but they have a really good defense this year too, behind that great offense, and they were able to come out with a 2013 win. They started up 17-0, 2 quick touchdown passes by Jeffrey Lefevre, one to Justin Rodriguez and one to Diego Villegas. Diego Villegas took his, those little bubble screens that everybody loves to do nowadays. Took that to the house, and Rodriguez, got behind the defense. And if he gets behind defenses, and Lefevre has time in the pocket, then that's like almost like an automatic touchdown. He had a touchdown against La Feria, the La Feria game. He had an early touchdown in that game too, where he burnt the La Feria defense. So Justin Rodriguez, sophomore receiver at Raymondville, really underrated player. One of our underrated receivers, and he's gonna have He's gonna have some time to grow with the fever, but yeah, down 17-0. Lyford didn't give up. They ended up scoring, making it 17-7 before the halftime. All those fumbles, giving them really good field position. Joshua Casabas had 2 forced fumbles, but the offense just couldn't really put it together in the red zone. Credit to the Raymondville defense again. Rigo Villegas, twin brother Diego, had a crucial pick to seal the game, and obviously, we have one of the best running backs in the valley at Raymondville, Trayshawn Washington. He still had 130 yards, but a couple fumbles kind of hurt that. Saying that stat line. And then Jaden Mendez had another really physical running back. He had 150 something yards. And they ended up closing out that game with like one long, really good drive. And that's something that Raymondville is capable of. They're capable of 6-minute drives. They're capable of scoring quick touchdowns. Really good put together team, and they're our number one RGV. They're our number one sub 518 for a reason. Yeah, you're muted. It's all good though.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, man. Raymondville does their thing, and we'll see them in action with another big 3A D1 game coming up here in just a couple weeks, man. So shout out to Raymondville getting it done. And then just to quickly run through a couple other results, Ivan, we had a inner city matchup going down here in the city of Edinburgh. What can you tell us about that game?
Yeah, man. I mean, it was a Edinburgh Economides versus Edinburgh North District 31 6A opener there at Richard Florida Stadium. And the Jaguars, the undefeated Jaguars, found themselves in a 14-7 hole heading into the fourth quarter. And, this is what you want to see from this team, though. They were able to tie the game on a 3-yard touchdown by Reyes Luna with 10 minutes remaining. And the defense was able to pick up a huge stop to get the ball back. And Jaguars take the lead on a 29-yard touchdown by Johan Nunez on a fake reverse with under 2 minutes remaining. And then the defense comes up big once again. Mark Trevira with the game sealing interception with less than a minute remaining to secure that 21-14 comeback victory over the Cougars. And it's like we mentioned though, we haven't seen them be tested. So to see them be able to claw their way out of a hole like that, you're down 14-7 in the fourth quarter, and to improve to 6-0 for the first time in program history. And it was big for them, and I think it's big for the program too. This is their first season over 500 since 2016. They can lose the rest of their games, they'll still finish over 500, and they're just 2 wins away from tying their program record of 8 wins set in 2003. So, what a win for the Jaguars and Edinburgh North. They continue trying to find their way there as they fall to 1-5 overall and 0-1 in district. But huge win for the Jaguars to start district as they chase the district title and continue that historic run that they're on to start this 2025 year.
And then Edward, man, back to you, man. 5AD2, we had a couple rivalry games going down, a couple 15 5AD2 title contenders going at it, as well as, I mean, one of the Valley's most tradition-rich rivalries between Mercedes and Ed Couch Elsa. So what can you tell us about those two games, man, and how those two played out?
Yeah, Mercedes took care of business. Whooped on a cup. They're one of their biggest rival, like their biggest rival now. Because of how they, I'm saying, because of their district alignments. 42-8. Diego Bravo went off over 190 rushing yards. Robert Sanchez, over 100 something rushing yards, also 2 touchdowns, each of them, I think. So they just, easy win. And we've talked about Mercedes a lot. Like, you know how much we all are pretty high on Mercedes. We think they could beat anybody in the Valley. Yeah, I mean, it's their district to lose, and I really don't see anybody beating them in that district. And it's not to put down any of those other programs, but Mercedes it's just their year. And Mission Veterans, again, another team that maybe we weren't as high on to begin the season. They had a lot to prove, though. They only won 2 games a year before, but now they're on a roll, and they beat one of their biggest rivals in that district, Sheridan High, 28-16. So, I mean, the Mission Veterans and Mercedes look really strong in those districts, and it's up to those other programs to, play up against them, and they're going to go in in any of these games they're going in as favorites. But there was another big win with Sheridan Pioneer going to Alice. That was a really big win in that district. You never know how you could travel up there, and what I'm saying. Like, there's a lot of mystery about that Alice team, but that's a good win for Sheridan Pioneer, and that should probably encourage teams like Roma and Sheridan High when they play Alice to be able to get the job done and make sure all 4 of those Valley teams in that 5-team district make the playoffs in 15-5 AD2.
Week 7 in the books, and we are on to week 8, fellas. And as always, we'll kick off our week 8 preview and look at this week's slate of games with our RGVSports.com game of the week. And fellas, in week 8, we stay there in District 16 5A D1, man. And I know last week we had a matchup of district title contenders, Macon Memorial. We're back at it again with another pair of district title contenders, 2 different ones, the Edinburgh Vela SaberCats and McAllen Row Warriors. It's another top 10 matchup for us as the SaberCats come in ranked number 4 in the RGVSports.com 5A, 6A top 10, and Row makes its debut coming in at number 10. Row is 4-2 overall. 3-0 in district play, as are the SaberCats. So there's three teams tied for first. The McAllen Memorial is the other one. Two of them will face off this week, and as the SaberCats and Warriors meet up 7:30 p.m. Friday at Richard R. Flores Stadium in Edinburgh between the SaberCats and the Warriors. And this one, man, I mean, Rowe, they've been a pleasant surprise under first-year head coach Jamar Taylor. He's got them playing some really good football on both sides of the ball this year. They're scoring 33.5 points a game, giving up 22 points a game on the SaberCats. We know how good they are and how good they've been over the past few years. And of course, they stumbled early in non-district play, but since then, they've been the same old SaberCats, man, doing their things and dominating things defensively, and that's just what they've done, scoring 34.5 points a game. But man, they're giving up just 6.8 points a game defensively. Defense has just been balling out this year. On another level, forcing takeaways left and right. So it's just been impressive to see what the SaberCats have done and how they've been able to rebound. So it'll be interesting to see this one. Row quarterback Eli Garza leads the Warriors offense. He's got over 800 yards passing, and then they've got a stable of runners, man, that can really get it done. Ivan Ramirez and Jose Jimenez have been carrying the load recently as of late. So it'll be a matchup to see how can the Row Warriors run the ball against this stout Edinburgh Vela defense that's led by Mario Cavazos and OJ Connell, two linebackers that play from sideline to sideline, and they play at a high level. And then, of course, defensive back Caden Hoover, 9 interceptions on the year, just a stud. There in the secondary at the safety spot for the SaberCats. And then for Vela offensively, man, George Falls has been putting up numbers there as one of the top receivers here in the Rio Grande Valley. And Tyler Ruiz has stepped in to kind of lead things at the quarterback position while splitting time with Gavin Castillo. So we'll see if George Falls can get going there for the SaberCats offensively, and spearheading the road defense, man, is Dante Rodriguez. He's a dude, man. He's a linebacker, but again, in that game of the week win against Palmview a few weeks ago, I saw him hawk down a receiver, man, that looked like he was gone. So he's a linebacker, but he's got some wheels, man. He's got some jets. He can turn them on. He's a really good player. He's a dude there for the McAllen Row Warriors defense. So that is our RGVSports.com game of the week here. The Edinburgh Vela SaberCats playing host to the McAllen Row Warriors, 7:30 p.m. Friday at Richard R. Flores Stadium in Edinburgh. So that's going to be another fun one, man. Both teams unbeaten in district. That'll change after 48 minutes Friday night here in Edinburgh. So, fellas, we'll keep things moving with our Week 8 preview. We've got a bunch of other teams, key games in district play going on here in Week 8. What do you guys got for us on the Week 8 slate?
Yeah, I mean, Class 6A, we mentioned it's a small district. I mean, 31 6A with just 5 teams, or 6 teams, 32 6A with just 5 teams. So every game matters in district. One, 2 losses keeps you out, and then that makes a big one here in Brownsville Thursday at Sam's Memorial Stadium. We got Brownsville Hannah, who went 0-1 to start district, against Brownsville Veterans, who's coming off that shocker against the Cardinals. So both 0-1. It's a must-win game, to be honest, for these teams. 0-2 makes it extremely hard for you to make the playoffs in that 5-team district. So a loss here could pretty much mean the end to the season. Mathematically, you're still in it, but it's going to be a lot tougher road ahead. So, like I mentioned, Hannah's coming off that 34-13 loss to San Benito, and Vets that 40-39 overtime loss to Harlingen. So the biggest key, Hannah, can they slow down that two-headed monster in the backfield that the Chargers got of Belmontes and Trevelyan? Like I mentioned, both over 1,000 yards, both double-digit touchdowns, and you add in guys like quarterback Jake Sines and Maddox Bond. I mean, it's going to be a tough test there for the Eagles. And one good thing for the Eagles, they do have quarterback Albert Chavez back. He struggled a little last week against his first game back against San Benito, but let's see if he can get back in form and really start getting that offense moving. And it's going to be important. Like I said, a must-win game for both of these teams. If they hope, one, to keep their district title hopes alive, you're still going to need some things to go your way, but more importantly, keep your playoff hopes alive. Because 0-2, I mean, your chances almost shoot down to virtually none if you start that season 0-2 in that small district. And just to kind of keep things going in big games over in 31 6A now, we got PSG High traveling to Richard Flores Stadium to take on the Edinburgh Economedes Jaguars. And I think this one could be similar to that Brownsville Vets Harlingen game. I mean, on paper, PSG High 0-6, Economedes 6-0, But the Bears, I mean, they played the Bobcats tough last week. Just a small 14-7 loss to a Bobcats team that's playing really good. And but the Jaguars are trying to keep pace with Weslaco and Edinburgh High for that district title. All three of them 1-0 to start district. So Jaguars got to make sure not to fall into that trap game. I mean, you got to win that game and to kind of keep that streak alive and continue to be in that contention. And for PSJI, man, the reigning 31 6A champions, they've played better the past couple weeks. Quarterback Dylan Rodriguez and JD Salceda are the receiver junior are building some good rapport there. I mean, he ranks in the top 10 in the Valley in receiving, and if they can get them going early, I mean, they can give these Jaguars a fight and possibly stun these Jaguars at home. So just a couple of big games there at the 6A level. And Edward, I mean, I know we got some big ones too at the 5A D2 and sub 5A level. I mean, what could you tell us about those contests?
Yeah, they're similar situation, right? 5-team district, 15 5A D2. Alice and Sharyland High both 0-1. Yeah, I mean, like you really just all you need to do is win one game. Really, you make the playoffs. So if Sharyland High could beat Dallas, like I said, if all the Valley teams could beat Dallas, then they're all in. So that would be, Sharyland needs to bounce back. They've lost a couple in a row now. And then you got Mercedes at Brownsville Lopez also Thursday night, and that might be Mercedes' toughest test on paper. Brownsville Lopez coming off a win against PSA Southwest, and they got some physical ball players that can, match some of the physicality that Mercedes has. So that should be an interesting game on Thursday night. And Friday night, Brownsville Pace at PSA Southwest. Again, two 0-1 teams. They need to bounce back, and again, like in that district, you need to win a couple games to make the playoffs. So one of those teams will obviously get a win. And then Brownsville Porter against Ed Catch also on Friday night. Porter beat Pace 7-0 last week. So I mean, if they take care of business against that Catch also, what I'm saying, this could be a playoff team. One of the first times that Brownsville Porter, I think it's been like over 10 years since they made the playoffs, at least. So that's a really big game for them. And then Roma and Sharyland Pioneer. Yeah, Pioneer was able to get it done on the road, like we said, against Alice. So we'll see if they can keep that momentum going, and we'll see if Roma could, pick up a big win. And they missed out on the playoffs last year, so they're going to be itching to get back in. And then 4A D1 is Zapata and Hidalgo. Gruya and Lafayette on 4A D2. Port Isabel and Kingsville King, 14 district. Uh, everyone's already in the playoffs, but you're basically playing for that title. So Port Isabel came off a big win against St. Joseph, kind of like a surprise win, right? Like Port Isabel has kind of been a little inconsistent early on. They played some good teams. They lost to Roma. They lost to like Couch. Teams that are in 5A D2 lost to Lyford, but they come back and beat a really good Brownsville St. Joseph's offense. We've talked about Gavin Cisneros, so to be able to pick up that win at home was good for them to start district. And then Lyford and Rio Hondo, big game out there, another little rivalry. Rio Hondo undefeated, like we said. Raymondville has to go to San Diego. That's not going to be easy. San Diego beat Lyford, so another little tough test for Raymondville. And then Taft Santa Rosa, we talked about that game a little bit earlier. And then Freer plays Santa Maria in 6A 2AD1, and then 6A 2AD2 Benthel and La Villa. I think Santa Maria and La Villa should be able to take care of business against those teams at home. That's pretty much it for sub 5A and 5A D2.
Yeah, some big time matchups there. And then, man, I'm really looking forward to. You never want to look ahead, man, but if Ravenville and Rio Hondo can head into next week's matchup, that's going to be a big one to watch next week, man. So
one of y'all should go out to that game. Go out there and taste that. Where's that? Raymondville or Rio Hondo?
I want to say it's at Raymondville. I could be wrong though.
Yeah,
go out there and
get some chicken legs or what?
They had taco trucks and all this stuff. They had Raymondville. Man, Raymondville had Raymondville had it going on, man. it's, 5,000 people stadium, that's pretty good size for like, that's, what I'm saying, those small communities. So it gets it's
Yeah,
pretty good environment, pretty
yeah,
fun.
they do it right, man. So that'll be a good one. I know uh, next week's slate jam packed with really good games all across the board. So, what we, but before we get there, we got to kick off week 8, and we'll run through one more game to wrap up our week 8 preview, and that's the La Jolla Palmview Lobos at the McAllen High Bulldogs, 7:30 p.m. Friday at McAllen Veterans Memorial Stadium. And fellas, I mean, to put it plainly, I mean, this is a must-win for both of these teams. Palmview is 2-1 in district play. But they still got to play McAllen Memorial. They still got to play Edinburgh Vela. They got to play Mac High Bulldogs here in weeks. And Mac High, they're already 2 losses in district play. So last year, Mac High lost to Palmview 28-27 here in week 8. It ended up this loss being the thing that kept Mac High out of the playoffs as Mac High and Palmview finished tied. It was the head-to-head record against each other, and since Palmview beat them 28-27, that ended up kicking the Bulldogs out of the playoffs while Palmview went in. So this is a must-win for both teams. Mac High wants to avoid that third loss. Definitely don't want it here against Palmview. And Palmview, if they can take care of business against the Bulldogs, then they have a chance to get in to the playoffs as well. So I know it's week 8, man, but this game has a lot on the line, and it should be a good one between the Palmview Lobos and the Mackay Bulldogs, 7:30 p.m. Friday at McAllen Veterans Memorial Stadium. So that'll be a good one, man. And shoot, man, I mean, hey, there's there's no small games in district play. You know what I mean? Everything counts, everything matters. So you want to look as good as you can. And then, of course, you always could end up in that tiebreaker situation where it comes down to points at the end of the season when you end in a 3-way tie. So, yeah, fellas, a bunch of big games going on this week, especially there in the RGVSports.com game of the week. First place on the line in 16-5A D1 between the McAllen Road Warriors and Edinburgh Bella Sabercats. And as always, you can catch all of our RGV's football and volleyball coverage, and then we got cross country and of course basketball starting up soon. So you can catch all that at rgvsports.com and RGV Sports on all social media platforms. And then Ivan, why don't you tell them where they can find the latest RGV football stats?
Yeah, we've said it once and we'll say it again, man. We got everything for you there. We got passing, rushing, receiving, scoring, special teams, defense, and that's at football.rgvsports.com. You could also get to it from rgvsports.com and just click on the football tab. But we got it all, man. As long as your coach reports the stats to us, we got you on there. And we got standings, we got game coverage and all that stuff. So make sure to visit us at football.rgvsports.com to see the stat leaders, to see the district standings, and see how that playoff picture is starting to, kind of shake out heading into these final weeks of the regular season. I've said it before, and I ain't afraid to say it again, man. We do it the best here down in South Texas, and we're gonna keep doing that for you guys.
Yeah, we're gonna keep it up, man, and you can find everything at rgvsports.com. So, with that said, thank you guys for joining us for another episode. For End Zone Edward, for Interception Ivan, and Blindside Bryan. We'll catch you next time.